Excellency Minister Oumer Hussein, Excellency State Minister Huria, Parmesh from the World Bank, Stewart from BMGF, Hen from Precision Development, our colleagues, invited guests and friends, all protocols observed. On behalf of the design team and the steering committee for developing digital agriculture extension and advisory service roadmap, I'm very pleased to welcome you to Addis Ababa and to this particular workshop of finalizing the roadmap of the extension and advisory service of Ethiopia. I am quite confident that you all will bring immense digital knowledge, skill set, experiences of years of services in academics, public, private, bilateral, multilateral, and civil society organizations. I also expect that you are here with a commitment to contribute to a dynamic and innovative digital solutions to solve existing and potential challenges of the sector. The agriculture sector of Ethiopia has started transformational journey, and that necessitates significant improvement in technologies, innovations, systems, and processes that can ensure rapid growth in the sector that serve 16 million farmer and pastoral households. That constitutes about 71% of the entire population of the country. The sector is organized and being led by Ministry of Agriculture and 9 accountable institutions. There are also several organizations working with Ministry of Agriculture to transform the sector. Such demanding development plan of the ministry and the sector at local, national, continental, and global levels require sophisticated techniques and technologies combined with genuine partnership among various institutions like education, research, public, private, civil society, and agencies that are established at regional, continental, and global levels. Realizing the complex challenges that the agriculture sector has on the one hand, and the target set on the other, triggered brainstorming sessions that brought like-minded institutional leaders, initially from Ministry of Agriculture, ATI, GIZ, Digital Green, Precision Development, and Sasakawa Africa Association, to discuss and agree to promote digital agriculture with special emphasis on extension. Leaders of these institutions agreed on the scope and depth of the digital solutions, the structural arrangement, and the processes. The scope and depths were defined to be developed a roadmap for digital agriculture extension and advisory services. Structurally, we have a steering committee, a core team, and an extended technical team. The design team developed a layout of contents and the processes to be followed in developing in the roadmap. Following this framework, the core team had retreats and drafted the initial roadmap. In order to add international experience and elevate the standards of the document, TOR was developed to hire international consultancy firms to refine and upgrade the roadmap development. As a result, BCG was selected among the consultancy firms, and BCG team did a very good job. The combined effort of the local team and the BCG team will be presented shortly by Redeat. And we are all here to further refine and validate the roadmap. We also expect the roadmap to be further improved by taking the experiences of colleagues from other countries who are ahead of us in terms of digitizing their work. For me, it was a pleasure working with such high-level leaders and experts during the roadmap development process. I believe that our strength is in our collaboration to work as a team. Creating access to digital innovations to end user is a strategic move towards digital economy, and hence having suitable ecosystem, policies, and a holistic or value chain-based applications. We are all committed to take roadmap forward and turn the paper into action with carefully selected and strategic use cases. We organizers are very glad to have you all and appreciate your contribution to the betterment of the roadmap. I also hope that you will enjoy your stay with us, and please, let's be part of this promising digital initiative. Finally, I would like to thank Minister Oumer, who has provided us a collegial guidance, Stewart, Parmesh, Vikas, Marcus, and the analytics team of ATI for a remarkable contribution in the development of the roadmap, and I hope your support will remain solid during the implementation of the roadmap. I also hope that Elliot, who is replacing Vikas, will continue supporting us realizing this plan. I'm also grateful to BMGF, GIZ, and the World Bank for financial support throughout the process. Colleagues in the core team and technical team led by Dr. Getu deserves special appreciation, and Josephine Shu, who was ATI focal person, was a key player in this long journey. Once again, warm welcome and have a great time in Addis. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mandefro, for your speech. Up next, we have 4 consecutive opening speeches lined up. Kicking that off would be His Excellency Minister Oumer, Minister of the Agriculture of Ethiopia. Minister, if you could make your way to the podium, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Before I go to my speech, I was looking to the smiling face behind me, sitting there, and I was asking myself, what is the source of their being happy to be like this? The answer is, practical people who are doing good farm there, they are always in good position than us sometimes, who has a good technology in hand. Your Excellencies, Honorable Guests, Her Excellency Huria, State Minister of Mint, Honorable Guest Shah from World Bank, Collis from BMGF, development partners, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor and a great pleasure for me to join you at the International Digital Agriculture Extension and Advisory Service Roadmap Development Workshop. The government of Ethiopia is implementing its ambitious development plan aligned with Agenda 2013 of the United Nations and African Aspiration of 2063. Agriculture is an engine for and a clear pathway to development and prosperity. We have set ambitious targets to increase productivity across key staple and the green cash crops, horticulture, and the livestock commodities. Our target by 2030 is to almost doubling agricultural production, major agricultural commodities, taking 2021 as a basis, increasing export earning from the sector, and the transiting from import to export on strategic commodity like wheat, rice, and edible oil, leading to stabilizing the food price and thereby strengthening in trade in the functional market in the region. Smallholder farmers organized in commercial cluster farming and the rapidly growing commercial farms will play key roles in achieving those ambitious goals and targets. The significant policy reform, especially in encouraging private sector along the value chain and across to finance, extension and the advisory service can enhance successes. As agricultural extension is a vital mechanism to transform agriculture sector, we have made a considerable effort and outlaid huge resources to reach producers and other actors with different extension and market advisory services. Ethiopia's agricultural extension and advisory service dates back to 1930s, where Ambo and Jimma have played significant role in extending agricultural technologies and innovation to neighboring farmers. During the second generation of the technology promotion, Chelalo Agricultural Development Unit, which is called KADU, ARDU, WADU, played huge roles in the then promotion and the scaling up of livestock and the crop technologies and advisory services. During the third phase of the extension service promotion, Sasakwa Africa Association has played a great role, especially in maize and wheat. Currently, we have over 65,000 development agents to provide a person-to-person service, devised a participatory extension system that's characterized by the formation of farmers groups, community mobilization, and voluntary model farmers support. Despite the steady increase in the number of the development agents, they are still overburdened by rural development activity and support to group extension service through community mobilization that entitle efforts to pursue and convince. Moreover, there have been observable knowledge and skill gaps that requires frequent backstopping and upscaling among development agents. Thus, we believe that digital agriculture extension and advisory service would add significant value for farmers through a digital transformation. It would also address the capacity limitation of development agents and sets clear pathway to enhance their efficiency and effectiveness. It would also empower and enable farmers by providing access to information and letting them chart their own path. The agriculture sector could highly benefit from innovative digital solutions, from low-tech solutions, disseminating agronomic advisory to high-tech tools involving satellite data, digital sensor, and big data analytics. These technologies will help farmers become more productive and resilient to the effect of climate change, and will help provide a pathway to better paying market to increase their income. Increasing agricultural production requires that we fully harness the immense potential of digital technologies, that it requires minimum and sustained investment on digital agriculture to produce results that can transform the food production and supply system on a sustainable basis. This roadmap is timely as the agriculture sector finalized 10-year development plan, policy revision, and structural reform. On the other hand, existing and the potential challenge requires innovative solution in the specialized infrastructure. The development plan and the reforms are very ambitious and requires digitizing what we are doing. The roadmap is a critical input as a part of the digital agriculture initiative that contributes a lot to realization of digital Ethiopian national strategy. Digitizing agriculture extension and advisory service was intensified during COVID-19 pandemic that constrained face-to-face extension and advisory service to farmers. In addition, ICT use is booming because of advance in digital service being provided by Ethiopian Telecom and other service providers in Ethiopia. The rapid productivity growth and the competitive nature of agricultural commodity necessitates increase in digital service in almost everything we do, and thereby leading to food and nutrition security in the country in a context of population growth and climate change. The agriculture sector of Ethiopia is currently putting in place innovative policies strategies and regulations to enhance business opportunities for various actors in agribusiness. The sector development plan was designed to mitigate food shortage problem due to COVID-19, where import substitution was considered as key aspect of emergency response. In this regard, we have systematically chosen 10 strategic commodities in 10 years, what we call 10 in 10. This would also make use of emerging opportunities for exporting those commodities in the immediate future. Digital solution can provide a unique opportunity to overcome some of the challenges that producers are facing in accessing better technology at grassroots level. We believe that private sector will play strong roles to enable this digital transformation in fetching in innovative, tailored and affordable digital solutions and service to farmers and other actors across the food system. I clearly see the role of Ministry of Innovation and Technology and Ethio Telecom and other service providers in widening the coverage and the connectivity of the internet service. Finally, I would like to congratulate the Ethiopian core team, steering committee and the BCG for developing a draft roadmap that will be refined in this workshop. Special appreciation goes to BMGF for both technical and financial support. The Ministry of Agriculture acknowledges the great efforts made so far by development partners, NGOs and the private enterprises to digitize extension and advisory service in Ethiopia. Building on this progress made so far, I would like to request you all to now take active part in jointly enrich the drafting digital roadmap and ensure coordinated efforts for better impact. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for asserting the commitment of the Ministry and also a call for action. Up next, we have Her Excellency Huria Ali, State Minister of the Minister of Innovation and Technology.
I'm very sorry for my voice. Good morning to you all. Your Excellency, Dr. Oumer Hussein, Ministry of Agriculture, representative of development partners, representative of private sectors, distinguished guests and participants, all protocol is observed. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to be part of Ethiopia's digital agriculture extension and advisory service roadmap convened today. Agriculture is the largest employer, GDP contributor, and export item in Ethiopia. We acknowledge that it needs special attention to leverage digital tools and opportunities to improve productivity and realize modernization. In the context of leveraging digital tools for agriculture, it's important to focus on building our capacity to reach new users, deliver new information, products, ideas, and best experience for productivity enhancement, creating jobs, better GDP contribution. In the draft of Digital Agriculture Extension Advisory Service Roadmap document, connectivity and hardware, data and analytics, governance and policy, human capital, and business environment are identified as challenges. These components have a lot of overlap in what we aspire to achieve through the implementation of Digital Ethiopia 2025 strategy. The implementation phase of the Digital Ethiopia 2025 strategy has been in place for the last 18 months or so. The strategy outlines critical foundational prerequisites to unlock the digital potential of the country across all sectors. The foundational elements to work as include infrastructure, connectivity and telecom liberalization, in which one more telecom service provider has been licensed in the same period. In terms of applications, e-commerce and e-governance, 400 e-services has been developed and launched through we have some limitations in the technology, uptake and utilization. On the other hand, e-commerce is critical to facilitate and modernize trade. In this regard, the e-transaction regulation, when completed and implemented, will have a great impact. The measures taken by National Bank of Ethiopia, roll out digital payments and enacting the financial inclusion strategy are also remarkable activities that enable the realization of Digital Ethiopia 2025 strategy. Digital literacy is also one of the critical elements for successful delivery of services, and specific strategy in develop and concrete steps has been made, such as conducting training for selected government employees. In addition, several partnerships are contracted to push this agenda in basic digital literacy, content processing, and content development. It's also important to industrialize the private sector engagement. In line with this, we actively supported the formation of associations such as Digital Transformation Association, Career Service Provider Association. We are also working with Youth Entrepreneurs Association. It's our core plan to further strengthen and expand these associations and make them a voice and reliable partners in the development of digital economy. Furthermore, several regulatory frameworks are in the final phases of ratifications, which are hoped to have profound effect in unlocking digital opportunities. The Startup Proclamation, Personal Data Protection Proclamation, and e-transaction regulation are few to mention. Those progresses are across framework elements will directly or indirectly positively affect the agricultural sector development in many ways. The strategy also identified pathways for prosperity that will leverage its successful implementation. The agricultural sector is rightly at the forefront of the selected pathway, and it's set to benefit from these initiatives. Using the achievements I mentioned earlier as springboard and further improving our collective performance, the successful implementation of this strategy is 5 years from kickoff date. It's believed to pave the way for sustainable and responsible development of the digital economy we aspire to build in Ethiopia with active private sector leadership. As a driver of Ethiopia's digital economy, Ministry of Innovation and Technology will commit to support and enable the digitalization efforts of the Ethiopian Agriculture Extension and Advisory Services in partnership with Ministry of Agriculture, ATI, and other stakeholders. In the course of Digital Agriculture Extension Advisory Service Roadmap Development, we will provide experts guidances, active participation, and information among others. Finally, I would like to argue participation, actively engage in the process, and provide valuable inputs and insights to further improve the roadmap. Thank you so much. Have a good time.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for outlining the way forward of the broader digital sector and also its linkage with agriculture. Our next speaker is going to be Stewart Collis from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Thank you.
First, I'd like to recognize Your Excellencies, Minister Oumer and Minister Huria. Thank you for hosting us. And additionally, I'd like to thank Director Yenenesh and Director Mandefro for your partnership on this work. I'd also like to recognize the partnership of the World Bank and Parmesh Shah and his team, members of our steering committee and working groups for co-designing this work, support of the BCG team and ATI, and the Gates Foundation events team for putting on this convening. And of course, all of our honored guests, both international and national participants and attendees, we really appreciate your attending. So as was mentioned, my name's Stewart Collis, and I'm the Senior Program Officer for Digital Solutions within the Agriculture Development Team at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And at the Gates Foundation, we believe all lives have equal value. We work towards implementing on this principle through our programmatic work. And, broadly, when we look at agriculture, the world faces many challenges for food systems. They're under enormous pressure. And not only do we need to bridge the gap between global food production gaps, but we also need to do this in the face of climate change and more immediate challenges such as the COVID pandemic and other global conflicts that put greater strain on an already strained global food system. From our perspective, what's important to remember is that these global challenges are global issues, but we need to remember the importance of small-scale producers and their role in the food system. At the Foundation, we subscribe to the theory that in order to achieve inclusive, country-led agricultural transformation, small-scale producers need to transition from subsistence farming to being participants and contributors and beneficiaries of economic growth. In order to measure progress, we have targets within our own foundation around increasing small-scale producer productivity, increasing incomes, improving household nutrition, and increasing women's empowerment in agriculture. Now, while the world has made progress in agricultural development, we recognize that climate change and other crises put this progress at risk, and small-scale producers are particularly vulnerable to these challenges. As such, we have an increasing focus on climate adaptation and resilience. The Ethiopian government has already made agricultural transformation a priority in its national policy agenda and has developed, as we heard, a Digital 2025 strategy. And Ethiopia is a priority country for the Gates Foundation Agricultural Development Program, and specifically the Digital Farmer Services team on which I sit. A key component of these shared strategies is strengthening advisory and extension services, which has already seen significant investment by Ethiopia with the 65,000 development agents. That's one of the largest field forces in the world. And augmenting these agents with digital tools is already underway. At the Gates Foundation, we consider digital to be an accelerator of agricultural transformation. Digital tools allowed faster, more scalable, more efficient services to be provided to small-scale producers. And while digital adoption is still quite low in sub-Saharan Africa, we see evidence that providing bundled digital farmer services has a multiplier effect on increases in income and productivity. By combining advisory services with financial services, insurance, market access tools, and high-quality climate-informed advisory services, incomes and productivity can increase, in some cases up to 30%, but sometimes more. Digital has enormous promise for improving agriculture globally. In high-income countries, digital agriculture is leveraging technologies like drones, microsatellites, autonomous driving tractors, precision inputs, blockchain, and artificial intelligence tools. And these tools are now seen as being essential for efficient, profitable farming systems. The question, though, is which of these technologies can provide impact in the Ethiopian context? Finding the right balance between cost for these types of technologies and the return on investment. And as we heard, addressing issues like digital literacy and access and digital capabilities. We have some of the world's leading experts in digital agriculture in the room today, so we look forward to hearing their views on the roadmap. The Ethiopian government has made major strides in developing digital services through platforms like the 828 service, reaching almost 6 million farmers, Digital Greens Farm Stack, the peer-to-peer video service, EIA's wheat rust models, and the Ethiopian Soil Information Service, just to name a few. However, in order to scale, a more coordinated approach is needed. We've been pleased to partner with Director Yenish and Dr. Mandefro to support the development of a roadmap for coordinating long-term digital agriculture extension and advisory services investments. Taking a systems approach to identify the fundamental building blocks for scalable digital advisory systems. Prioritizing use cases that are important to Ethiopia, and building a process for continually sourcing, testing, deploying local and international digital innovations in Ethiopia. We feel this country-led and country-owned roadmap will enable funders, development agencies, private sector, to partner more effectively with the Ministry of Agriculture and ATI on initiatives that are of priority for Ethiopia. At the Gates Foundation, we are committed to supporting some of the outputs of the roadmap, particularly related to bundled digital farmer services, agricultural data, climate adaptation, and women's empowerment. We are eager to hear feedback on the roadmap and believe Ethiopia could be an exemplar for other countries on how to better coordinate investments and execute on building a national agriculture extension and advisory system that will provide Ethiopia's small-scale producers the right information and services at the right time, enabling them to be more resilient, productive, and profitable, and supporting Ethiopia's agricultural transformation, economic growth, strengthened food security, and improved livelihoods for all. Thank you, and look forward to the convening.
Thank you, Stewart. It's great to hear that Ethiopia is a priority of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and I think it's also apparent when we see your contribution in this whole journey, so thank you. Our final opening speech is going to be provided by Mr. Parmesh Shah from the World Bank.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here on this very important event on digital agriculture in Ethiopia. His Excellency Oumer, Excellency Huria, Dr. Mandefro, Stewart, and BCG colleagues, and all the participants from Ethiopia and international participants who have arrived here to help us in this journey. A warm welcome to all of you. Agriculture and food systems worldwide have been going through huge disruption in the last 3-4 years, post-COVID, and the current crisis, economic crisis, which we see, which has reduced fertilizer supply by 40%, led to supply chain disruptions, and even very developed economies are facing food inflation globally. So what has enabled countries to handle this crisis well? During COVID period, the use of digital technologies by smallholders, SMEs, and agribusinesses has increased threefold all over the world. It's a very staggering data. And people like us who have worked in this sector for such a long time are amazed by the disruption which is caused because of COVID. COVID forced us to look at other options. Almost all the food e-commerce turnover of all the major e-commerce kind of sector has grown by twofold during COVID. The food is now being consumed through very different distribution channels than it was done earlier. Now, has this disruption helped the agriculture sector? Has this helped the smallholder farmers? Has this helped the SMEs? Not to the full extent. Because we need more innovation to happen on the backward side. The forward side, the innovations have been happening, but on the backward side, the innovations have been less. And I think in that context, this whole convening is very important. What we see in Africa and globally is that we did a study in 2019 in Africa on digital agriculture disruption. And we found that 480 innovations were happening in Africa, which were significantly disruptive. But how many of them got scaled up? Only 40 of them. Because we don't have an enabling ecosystem in order to scale up the innovations which are homegrown and are happening in the region itself. So I think this convening is very important when Ethiopian homegrown innovations and other innovations in the region and globally are also coming here. I think the time for innovation, ecosystem development in agriculture has come, and I think Ethiopia can be at the forefront of really creating this new innovation ecosystem, which allows domestic innovations and regional innovations and global innovations to really be used in Ethiopia in a very significant way. At the World Bank, when we look at this issue, we find there are two pillars to this digital transformation in agriculture. First is data. I think if you don't invest in data, products and services will not get developed. Even government sometimes uses very outdated data and then takes decision based on that, and then a lot of precious public resources get used in a relatively inefficient kind of way. So I think data is really the backbone for this investment. And I think we have seen that in the COVID crisis, those countries which had invested in data platforms were able to withstand the COVID crisis much faster and were more resilient. So to give you an example of one or two examples of what it will mean, just creating a digital farmer registry of all the Ethiopian farmers itself would enable government to take decisions more efficiently, and will also enable a lot of innovators to reduce the time spent on collecting data, and they will be able to spend more time on developing innovative products and services. Our study has shown that innovators spend 70% time on collecting data and only 30% on developing products and services. So data is an enabler which I think one needs to invest in more and more. But also it's not enough to have just digital farmer registry. There is a lot of satellite data which is available. There is weather data available. There is crop data. You in Ethiopia have done seminal work on creating soil maps and groundwater maps already. But that has to be now used to create applications, and a lot of products and services can. But if you make that data available to innovators, they will develop even more innovative product services based on that. Sitting on data is not enough. Creating a data value chain to develop analytics and use cases is also equally important. So I think that is a very major investment, and we at the World Bank have now seen that the governments are now spending almost 5% of the total resources in agriculture on creating data platforms. So you have to now get away from just spending on conventional investment, but also to spend money on data platforms. Ethiopia is already in that direction. Ethiopia and all the platforms you have are already available. We have to build on that and make further investments in data there. The second investment, which is most critical, is the investment in innovation ecosystem. I think if you just do data and you don't have an innovation ecosystem to convert data into products and services, and data into enabling public decision-making, policy, and investments by the government, then that's also going to be useless. So I think the innovation ecosystem means that you have to create a platform to enable the local homegrown innovators to incubate them and accelerate them. So at EdTech incubator and accelerator in Ethiopia is now the need of the hour. We need to invest in an EdTech incubation and acceleration, along with what Ministry of Innovation and Technology is doing in other sectors also. We are aware that you are trying to develop incubation and acceleration in health, education. Agriculture should become part of the innovation ecosystem which we are trying to develop in the country. So that's the second one. And we are very glad to see a lot of Ethiopian innovators and regional innovators who have done very seminal work in terms of creating fantastic innovations. And you will hear from them in the course of the workshop. And I would urge Ethiopia to really become the leader in creating an enabling environment so that all the regional innovators feel inclined to come to Ethiopia and work with you hand in hand in that innovation ecosystem. We also need to develop a homegrown EdTech startups in Ethiopia. I think you have number, but your number per capita of farmers is still low compared to the region. You are somewhere in the middle. You are not in the top 10, top 20% or top 30%. You have to create that innovation ecosystem to go to the next level. So I think that is something we are really committed to that. We have invested in 39 countries globally in these innovation ecosystems for AgTech. IFC, our sister institution, who is also here right now, which invests in private sector initiatives, and World Bank are committed to investing in the innovation ecosystem in Ethiopia going forward. Coming back to the roadmap now, I think I want to congratulate the roadmap team, BCG team, plus all the team, Dr. Mandefro and his team, for doing a fantastic job in creating a really credible roadmap for Ethiopia. I think as development partners, it's now our responsibility to invest in that roadmap. And from the World Bank side, unfortunately, Elliot had COVID 4 days back, and so he can't be here, but I'm talking to him almost daily. He's completely here in letter and spirit. In the new $600 million investment, we are committed to putting 10 to 20% resources to implementing this roadmap. I'm telling you today that we are hand in hand with you to make that investment. And I'm sure the other development partners like Gates Foundation, GIZ, and lots of others who are there are also equally committed to implementing that roadmap. Implementation of roadmap is more important than creating the roadmap. So I think we should also spend some time in discussing how we can implement this roadmap and also have a very actionable timeline related with milestones in that roadmap so that it doesn't become a convening workshop, but when we meet after 1 year, we would have already implemented some of these activities. I really wish you all the well for today's event, and I am convinced that Ethiopia can really write the transformation story of agriculture in the Africa region. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Shah, for your speech and really outlining the importance of data and innovation, especially when it comes to implementing an actionable roadmap to transform the sector. Up next, we have a presentation providing an overview of the DAEAS roadmap. It's going to be presented by Redeat Arega from the Agricultural Transformation Institute. Thank you.
Thank you, Annette. Thank you, everyone. So this presentation will now focus on really giving an overview of what the DAEAS roadmap looks like. Before I directly jump into the presentation, I want to start by saying that this is just a beginning for this roadmap. We want to also take this opportunity to invite all of you here to participate in changing this very coherent plan into a reality. So the target of this roadmap is to improve the Ethiopian agricultural sector. By that and through that, also improving the livelihoods of all of our farmers. And how the roadmap does that is by targeting 4 major outcomes. So it targets improved productivity and income. It also targets climate resilience, inclusion, both by empowering women and youth, and also nutrition and food security. So the roadmap does that by providing access to high quality, customized data and advisory information to all of the different actors that are involved in the sector. So at this moment, this is also a very good opportunity for Ethiopia because, as you know, the country is also going through an overall digital transformation. We can see this both from, as State Minister Huria mentioned, from the National Digital Strategy, where agriculture is one of the pillars, and we can also see from the different initiatives that are being taken across different sectors, such as the telecom and the banking. So this is a very good opportunity for this roadmap and a very good timing. So considering this, to be able to leverage this opportunity, the roadmap was designed across 3 different components. This is by considering from the solutions point of view, how many solutions are already available for farmers to use and leverage. From the digital stack point of view, how many hardwares, connectivities that both farmers, DAEAS, and other actors need are already available within the country. And also from the enabling environment perspective, what does the policy landscape look like, and how effective is it in supporting and enabling the implementation of this roadmap. So considering all of these questions, the roadmap was designed under these 3 major components. However, in saying this, it doesn't mean that we're all starting from scratch. As many of our keynote speakers mentioned, there are many of these great innovations, products and services already in place. So what makes this roadmap also very critical is, while there are so many elements in place, how do we make sure that they're well coordinated, and how do we make sure that we're unlocking this full potential of all of these innovations? So that's where the roadmap is needed, and that's where it comes to play. In terms of, in addition to also addressing all of this coordination aspect, there are also many challenges across these three components, both from the solutions pipeline aspect, from the digital stack aspect, and also from the enabling environment aspect. There are key challenges that exist the roadmap will try to also address. If we list a few examples under solutions, as we know, in the current landscape or ecosystem, there are very few local solutions that are currently available. And even within that, the contributions of the private sector is very limited. If we go under digital stack in terms of data sets, as people mentioned, there are many great data sets available, but how much are we using them? How much are they informing decision-making by different actors? There are different gaps that this roadmap can potentially fill. And similarly, for enabling environment, while there are many policies in place, there are a few gaps that can be filled that can better create and foster a good enabling environment for the whole system. So with this all aspect, looking at the different existing things, looking at the different challenges, that gives us a perspective of where we are, where we currently stand. When we look at the future of where we want to go with this roadmap, we have said that a clear and ambitious vision for the DAEAS roadmap. The vision is to create a very productive, inclusive, and sustainable system, through which, by providing a very customized and collaborative advisory information, all of these services to the farmers. So the roadmap has been designed with this ambitious vision across 6 different pillars. The first pillar focuses on championing digital innovation. This is to make sure that farmers have access to different innovations, products, and different solutions. The second pillar focuses on the data set aspect of things. So we have so many data sets. How do we increase the number of data sets that we have? How do we make sure that these are being used to their full potential? So that's what the second pillar focuses on. And the third pillar focuses on having the right tools, the necessary tools, both in the hardware perspective and also from the connectivity perspective, both for DAs, development agents, farmers, and other actors involved in the sector. The fourth pillar focuses on the policy aspect of things, the regulatory framework aspect of things. How do we make sure, while we have the above tools in place, the policy landscape is well designed to be able to enable all of this to work? And the fifth pillar focuses on capacity, the human capacity aspect of it. While we have all of this, we want to make sure we have capable staff, individuals, DAs, farmers, all of this who are able to leverage all of this that exists. And finally, while we have this great advisory services or extension services, we want to make sure that it's combined with a good business environment in terms of both input or other service access. We want to make sure that that's what's going to ultimately create the impact. So we want to make sure that all of the components exist. So that's what the sixth pillar focuses on. So having all of these different pillars, the roadmap has designed specific actions. So in order to achieve this ambitious vision, in order to achieve what we've initially set out as targets, we have outlined different initiatives, different action items across these 3 components. While I'm not going to go into the details of what each of this is, I want to mention that you have a paper, you should have the paper printout by your desks. So please take the time to have a look through each of the initiatives. Over the next slide, I will give a very high-level overview, but throughout the convening, please note down any of the inputs that you may have in any of this, and then at the end of the convening, please leave it at the registration desk so that we make sure all of the learnings, all of the inputs are well incorporated. Giving a very high-level overview of some of these actions, going under the first one, which is the solutions pipeline. It mainly focuses on making sure these different products, different solutions are available for the farmers to use. So to achieve this objective, there are 3 initiatives that are designed under this. The first one is having this local incubation support, both encouraging and incubating, supporting different local innovations so that we have access to more technologies. The second one focuses on partnering with mobile network operators in order to develop more DAEAS products. And the third one, similarly, if there are other successful, very successful international products, it focuses on supporting and encouraging the market entry of this product into the local market with the partnerships of local players. Under the second pillar, which is hardware and connectivity, as I mentioned earlier, it focuses on making sure all of the different actors, the DAEAS and farmers, have access to the tools that take both in terms of the hardware, the technology, the software aspect that they would need to deliver these services. So if I list one example for the DAEAS, it focuses on leveraging already existing initiatives in terms of tablet distribution, for example, to make sure that all of these DAEAS, all of the extension workers have access to the required technologies. And similarly, both across all of it, what goes is rural connectivity improvements. We also want to make sure that that rural connectivity is expanded through initiatives such as internet kiosks at selected locations so that both farmers and other actors also have access to connectivity. Under the third pillar, which is data and analytics, as mentioned, while having the different data solutions and also the different tools necessary, we want to make sure that they're actually being used to inform decision-making by different actors. So to do that, it focuses on making sure and creating reusable data sets and also fostering data sharing between different public and also private actors, and also, while doing that, improving the data quality. So if we list as an example, initiative number 13, it focuses on setting up a data portal where different actors, both private and public, will pull in their data. It will be serving like a decentralized data hub where people would have access to different data sets to use in their decision making. And under the fourth pillar, which is policy and governance, it focuses on overall creating that enabling environment. So it will be in terms of both policy development aspects and also fostering cross-sector coordination, at the same time streamlining processes such as content approval for DAEAS services. If I list as an example initiative number 16, there are so many initiatives already happening in terms of creating policy environment. We can list the pluralistic extension initiative recently happening and also the agricultural data sharing work. So this initiative will focus on accelerating the ratification of all of this to make sure that there is a right policy supporting enabling environment in place. And under the fifth pillar, as I mentioned earlier, it's mainly focusing on making sure all of the different actors have the necessary human capital, the necessary capacity to make use of all of these aspects. So it focuses on upscaling both the DAEAS and also the farmers. If I list as an example, number 2, the DAEAS upskilling aspect of it, it has different perspective. It can be through creating a digital training platforms. It also looks at integrating digital skill trainings at ETVITs and also improving the overall data management to improve efficiency. So through all of these different initiatives, it focuses on increasing or improving the human capital. And that also applies for the MOA and BOA staff in terms of digital skills. And similarly, in the business environment, while we have all of this digital extension and advisory services in place, we also want to make sure that there is the right business environment to ultimately create impact on the farmers. So this will include initiatives such as creating digital payment options for the farmers, having this output market accesses through digitization, and also access to digital finance targeting farmers. So as an example, if the payment option would help farmers have a quick way of paying for the different services such as inputs and other mechanization and other services that they would use. So these are all in terms of creating an enabling business environment. So this is a very quick overview of the 30 initiatives that the roadmap has, but each of them have a lot of detail under it. So when you give your inputs, there are the different aspects in terms of activities, the key risks, and also interdependencies. Please feel free to add inputs on that as well. So now that we have all of these elements of the implementation plan in place, the components or the actions in place, how do we make sure that they're well implemented is the second aspect. So for that, having a very solid implementation framework becomes very essential. And for that, the DAEAS roadmap also has that component, which has elements such as a solid implementation plan, a governance structure, a monitoring plan, and also a communication plan. If we zoom in into one of those key elements of the implementation, which is the operation plan, we can see that all of these 30 activities have been laid out against the timelines of the roadmap. So especially one thing you may notice is that a lot of the activities are front-loaded to the first phase, which goes up to 2026, which will allow to then do a midterm assessment and further refine and detail the actions for the second phase, which runs up to 2026. This all implementation plan would be used by the different actors, the implementers, to make sure that all of the actions are taking place according to what is designed and ultimately that we achieve our targets. And as I go to the end of the presentation, I want to again take this opportunity to invite all of you to contribute to this and be a change agent to making this vision into a reality. Thank you.